they'll battle you until the very last lap for a 15th. Like, it's pretty crazy. One of the hardest laps like ever in my life, and I'm in 10th, probably like 2 seconds off. You're like, what the am I doing?
I think this sounds like a good amount of money. Hit me up with that and I'll ride your bike.
AMA champion for supercross. Their next year's sign-on will be 20 times more than if they went out there and won outdoors.
United States or Europe?
Didn't really know what to say, but I was like, oh, on your bike, I definitely think I could be like a top 3 guy. Walked out pretty much like shaking. I was in my pants.
All right, let's go. The Ride Network. I am Kane Taylor and I'm joined by a really special guest today, Jed Beaton. What's up, Jed? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, not much. Just getting ready for the next hour or so talking.
You know, Tassie's actually a good place to start with all of this because that's where it began for you. And, you know, I feel like I've heard some stories and I think we all have, but verifying them would be cool. But you growing up on the farm without like electricity at times, is that legit?
Yeah, I mean, like we had electricity, but it was just like more a generator. And yeah, that would just come on like 6 o'clock, 6:30 at night, and then we'd have power from then on out. But before that, we didn't really have anything else to do but ride. We had bikes and plenty of fuel. That was about it.
That was sort of the next question. You know, I heard that you just fill the bikes up, ride until they run out of gas, fill them up and go do it again. So what was like, you know, the day in the life of a young Jed Beaton growing up being a dirt bike rider?
Yeah, back then I was going to school every day, and then obviously I had my brother. He was still living there at the time, and then almost every day, you know, would get home, be really bored, just grab the bikes, go ride. We were fortunate enough to have a track like pretty much in our backyard, so we were in the middle of nowhere, so we had no complaints for neighbours or anything like that. Had paddock bombs, just done heaps of fun that like you normally probably wouldn't get to do when you grow up in like a town or a city environment. So yeah, just heaps of weird shit, fun stuff, and mostly just riding.
You know, you've had a pretty big career now and it's still going, but when you look back at those times and how much time you would have spent just on the bike, whether it was actually training or riding or just bike time, do you think that that's, you know, something that when you started racing, you saw pay sort of dividends at the time, just how much time you spent on the bike?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely burnt a lot of fuel and done a lot of hours, but I mean, I wasn't probably the best junior racer. I mean, when I was younger, we used to come and do Vic titles and then would get the boat all the way over and then drive to the races, and then sometimes I'd roll up and say, oh, I don't really want to race anymore. Dad wouldn't even get angry or nothing because
What, at the event?
Yeah, at the event. I'd do like the practice or the first race and be like, I'm pretty off it now. So that was probably 65 days. And yeah, obviously Dad didn't care at all, which was pretty crazy now that I think back at it. We'd spend all that money and all the time to go and race it, and then I just pulled the pin after the first practice or the first race. But he didn't seem to care because Ross was racing at that time anyway, and Ross was mainly taking it a lot more serious than what I was. I mean, I took my racing a lot more serious once I was like, 14, 15. Ross pretty much said to me, you need to either take it serious now or just forget about it pretty much. And from that point on, I pretty much like started training a little bit, taking it a lot more serious, and then obviously started riding like a lot more. I wasn't loving school that much, and then I'd either like go and play up and just like no point even being there really, or go and ride. So that was when I was like probably 11 or 12. I mean, after that, moving over here was like bit of a blessing for my racing. So from there it all got pretty serious.
I think, you know, in Tassie you got the state rounds and you got those sorts of things that goes down, but Victoria, at least at that time, was pretty strong in terms of the state rounds that they had and even the regionals and bits and pieces. So what was that transition like, you know, from a family perspective? Obviously Ross was already over here and he was super serious. So what was that whole transition period like?
I mean, there was a lot more racing here compared to at home. Like, I think we had 7 or 8 races throughout a whole year in Tassie with the state rounds. And then here you have like the Gippies, Vics, and then you'd travel to the Aussies when they were on. So even some of the kids that race the club champs, they obviously love that track and they're good there. So just the level of racing and stuff was a little bit better here, and obviously racing more often was better for me. It wasn't really a transition. We just had the choice to either race that weekend or not race, and then either go practicing or whatnot. So I think that side of things just made it a whole lot easier.
It's funny, I was speaking to Haruki the other day, and I was speaking to him about Ross because, you know, you guys are all on that Ross training program, Beaton's Pro Formula. And, like, Ross was a bad dude on a bike, like a really bad dude on a bike, especially growing up, you know, like the Honda factory team and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, growing up, how much of an influence did Ross have on your career? And I guess even still to this day.
We did so much riding together, and then he went away for a couple of years. And we're at that age, he's like 7 years older than me, so it's like a fair age difference. And when I moved here, I wasn't really that annoying little brother anymore. So we ended up getting along like 20 times better. And then
7 years is a decent gap.
Yeah, it's a big gap. So yeah, there's a lot to handle. But yeah, like I said, we ended up getting along 20 times better. And then obviously, at that point, he wanted me to take my racing a little bit more serious, because I think at that point he'd not quit racing, but wasn't like as focused on it because he had a really good job. And then he kind of wanted me to like go for it 100%. And I mean, if it wasn't for that and him pushing me a little bit, I think I was pushed at the right age to want to make it a career. And yeah, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be where I am now, or have the drive that I do to want to do well, if it wasn't for him on my back all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's really good in a way, and then other ways sometimes cause tension. But I mean, if it wasn't for it, then yeah, for sure I wouldn't be where I am. Obviously, Dad, he didn't really like push us a day in his life. He didn't care whether we were first or last. As long as we were having a good time, he was all about it. So with Ross, obviously putting a bit of pressure on and like telling me what I need to do. And obviously he'd done it before a little bit, because he'd raced under 19s for like 3 years and finished, I think, like third and second in the championship, and almost had a year where he was battling Keisha until the last round for the championship, I'm pretty sure. So it's not like he didn't know what he was doing and what it took. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I'm grateful for that to happen.
You know, he does know his way around, because I do remember at that time, you know, when he was racing juniors competitively, it was names like Simmons and Waters and Keisha and McNeil and like some pretty bad dudes. Like, I think a lot of people see him as a trainer now, but don't possibly understand like what he's done previously on a bike. So it's cool to see that he's had that impact on your career. But, you know, it transitioned to a fairly successful Australian career here, you know, resulting in an MX2 championship. Was the idea always to try and take this thing overseas, or was that more of an opportunity that presented itself after the success here?
I'd rode a little bit of supercross and obviously raced it. And I mean, I liked it to practice, but I didn't like it as much racing. I kind of put a path towards Europe because of that. Obviously, just because I hadn't spent enough time like practicing it and really focusing on it.
Did it seem like too dangerous, or?
No, I mean, like, not too dangerous. I had good speed and I had such a good time riding it, but obviously racing it, if you didn't get a start and you were like missing the rhythms and stuff like that, and obviously being so young and not going to the track and then like knowing all the lanes and being confident with it, I was just like thrown in the deep end a little bit, and yeah, didn't enjoy it that much. So it kind of put a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth about it. But that's kind of what got me focused on going to Europe, because they just raced 20 rounds of motocross and it's classed as a world championship. So that kind of caught my attention. And then the year that I was leading MX2 championship, I went and raced New Zealand earlier that year and did the 4-round championship that they had before Australia kicked off. And Josh Coppins, like, I got a bit of a good relationship with Josh, and then we were speaking there, and he said, yeah, obviously Courtney's racing in Europe for the WMX, and if I wanted to at one point to take all my stuff over, and then I could race her practice bike that she had with all my parts on it. So yeah, we ended up just deciding we were going to go. At one point, booked everything and went over. But there was a pretty crazy story to that because like we ended up booking everything, flying, but because it was like the last race of the championship for EMX, you had to be like top 20 or something in the championship, or top 40 actually in the championship to even get an entry. And because I'd been from overseas, I'd never scored like any points there. They told us like on the way there, pretty much halfway, that we weren't going to be able to race.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then
Wait, where? What? Like when you had landed, they told you couldn't
like
race?
halfway in between. So
Yeah.
like we'd got on the layover,
Yeah.
and I'd been told that I like wasn't allowed to race, or it could have been potential that I wasn't allowed to race.
So you're just chilling at like some random airport somewhere, and it's like we're halfway there,
Yeah,
and we might not be able to race.
yeah. So we were like kind of expecting to land in Europe and be like either told that we're allowed to race or not allowed to race.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I think Josh must have rang and pulled a few strings and eventually got me in. So we landed in Europe, and then I had the news of being able to race and that I'd been selected for Motocross of Nations that year. So it was kind of like two birds, one stone. Like we were pumped when we landed there.
That's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it was a bit weird, bit of a weird setup. We like left expecting to like fully race and were keen, had all our parts in our bag, suspension, everything. And then we got told maybe you won't be allowed to race. So we were like, oh shit, we're taking a lot of stuff for maybe going on a holiday to watch a GP.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were like, oh, it'll be sick to watch, even if we just went there and watched the race. So
Yeah, that's cool.
we had a little bit of a good mindset about it. And then obviously, like I said, when we landed, we got the news that we were allowed to race. So we were pretty pumped. Me and my brother and one of my close friends at the time, we all flew over there, and we were all pumped up, ready to go, and went and hired a car. Drove out on the highway and seen the speed limit's like 130, and we just didn't really know what to do. We're on the wrong side of the road. All of us are just kind of laughing, like thinking, what did we get ourselves into type thing. But drove like 2 hours, I think, to our good friend's house, now good friend's house. Courtney's mechanic at the time, and he's in a wheelchair. We get there, and yeah, he's just a character straight off the bat, and we got along really well. And to this day, he's still probably one of the guys that helped me the most in Europe. Always had my back and would do anything for me. So pretty crazy how it all works. Yeah, we built the bike in his shed. We were all talking shit with him, and then we thought we'd finish the bike, tried to start it, and because we were talking so much, he'd put the piston in backwards, and we're like, fuck, have to tear it all apart again. But yeah, it was a good time. And then obviously going to that race and getting there, we were driving through like Switzerland, seeing how crazy nice it was, like all the mountains and lakes around there. We were just blown away. Got to the track, you had to qualify. So I went out in like the first session, I think, and I qualified 8th in my group. So like I was pretty pumped on that. At that time, it was like Sinai, I think Renault, like a couple of big names that are in the GPs now even.
Yeah, it's a solid gang.
Did the first race, but I had a pretty decent start, I think, or I went down off the start and then fought my way back up.
They're two very different things. You had a decent start.
No,
or you went
I was
down
thinking
at
about
the start?
I was thinking about the second race because I crashed off the start in the second race. But you have like the warm up, or you have the qualifying in the morning, and then your first moto was like 5 o'clock in the evening. So you're like
really?
the first on track in the morning when it's like fully prepared and flat, and then you're like the last one on the track to race.
Yeah, that's hectic.
The first race, I got a decent start and then crashed on the second turn. I got pushed off the track and like went in the hay bales and went down. I got up and come back to, I don't know if I was inside the top 10 or not, but then yeah, you obviously have the night to recover, and then the second race was, I think it was like 11 o'clock the next morning. It's like in between the GP warm up and like their first race.
Yeah.
And yeah, on the second start, I crashed, and then someone like ran me over and hit my head. So I got like a concussion, but like got up and tried to ride, and then like got dizzy while I was riding and had to pull off. So we were like a little bit disappointed about that because we'd gone all that way to get like sort of a result like that. But yeah, I mean, it was enough to get like a little bit noticed. I flew home. and then finished the championship here. And then obviously Nations was after it.
Yeah.
And I was riding in Lommel and, crashed and broke my collarbone. And then, while I was there, I kind of got talking with the team and then, ended up heading over.
Yeah.
I started off actually racing in EMX on like a really basic Honda team. Yeah, that was definitely a struggle because like we didn't really know what we're getting into. Obviously saying me and my teammate Dylan Walsh at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what we're getting into. So we go there, it was like a whole new team setup type thing. We actually really didn't know what we were getting into. So that was like for the MX championship, and then they only do like 8 rounds or 9 rounds of the whole championship, 4 weeks in between races and stuff like that. And then I think one of the guys on HRC got injured, and then that's when they phoned me to fill in.
Yeah.
But that was like more towards the end of the season of like the first year I was there in the MX class.
Well, you did pretty good on the HRC bike.
Yeah.
A couple races you did.
That was kind of a weird setup because like they phoned me to fill in. Lockett, I think I finished like 8th overall, 8th or 9th overall. So they were like pretty impressed with that and like happy with it. And then we went to Assen, I crashed my brains out, and then Lommel did the exact same, crashed every race. And I think the second last round, my teammate from HRC, Chervelin, he got injured. So they needed someone to ride the new bike that they had out, like the 2018, I think it was. Yeah, I kind of had to ask my team that I was originally on, like HRC want me to fill in for this weekend as well. Is it okay? They were like a little bit funny with it and like at the start really didn't want to let me ride it. And then, I ended up talking them into letting me ride it, and it was probably the best thing that I ever done because that weekend I went out and I got a podium on the HRC bike. I got off the podium, pretty much went into F&H's truck, which was the Kawasaki team. We talked about a deal and pretty much agreed on it straight there. And then, so, it was like a little bit of a blessing in disguise.
Sounds like a little bit of an oblong season with a few things going on. But, that whole European thing, right? So I think we've seen a few times too with guys like Stike. He's a pretty good example, and different guys perhaps not getting the right program or knowing exactly what you're going to be on. So, when you talk about Europe as a whole and you go over there, there's the language barrier, I can't imagine how much of a culture shock it would be versus if you went to the US and went to California and everything's already there. So, you take the flight over there, you set foot in Europe, you're a professional racer over there at that point. What is that experience like, and how long does it take to just actually get acclimated to, Europe in general?
I was used to not having much, and then obviously going there, it wasn't really like a shock to me. I was like, it is what it is. I'll just get along with it. My mindset like helped me get through it in a way, because I think if I'd gone there expecting a lot and it wasn't delivered, I would have wanted to come home way quicker. It was a bit of a shock, but I was like, it's what I signed up for. I might as well get on with it. And then, now in the end, I'm glad that I stayed and did that because, the year after, got along really good with the family that I was living with. Even at the team where I was like first started off, I lived with them as well. I got along with them really well. I have nothing against them, but like obviously just the team and the structure of the team was like not really thought out. Obviously, second year, I went from like one living situation to another, and then it was just like a whole lot better, and I enjoyed it like 20 times more. So, it made my life like a whole lot easier, and then I felt like I could focus on my riding like way more.
Yeah.
And then obviously at the Kawasaki team, they had like a riding coach, which was Mark DeRuva. In that situation, it's just a whole lot easier. And because when I was racing here, I had that with Ross, and then going there for the year where we were there by ourselves, like I didn't have anyone. I was just going to the track, doing my own thing. Like I was obviously still doing the motos and everything like that I needed to do, but just like having no one there to say like, you could improve here and improve there was probably the time that I needed it the most, the first year that you go.
Yeah.
Lucky enough, I was to get that second year I was there, and then made the whole experience a whole lot easier and a whole lot better. So it wasn't like factory equipment or anything like that. So the results I was getting on that bike, like the team were stoked on it. And I was pretty pumped because I'd made a huge step from the year before. Yeah, I think that's what kept me there for a long time, is just the drive to want to just keep getting better and better.
Yeah, that's cool. And it did happen from season to season to then get to the Rockstar Husky team, which we were talking earlier was like full-blown factory in a lot of different ways. So, talk about how that deal sort of came about after that year with Cowie, and then what that experience was like to ride for that, full-fledged factory outfit.
Oh, yeah, I was like on a 1-year contract at the Cowie team, and Paul's Jonas was like leaving Red Bull KTM to go to 450. I literally walked under the Red Bull truck and then met the team manager, was Dirk at the time, and just said, "Oh, hey, my name's Jed. I've been racing MX2, and I don't know if you've noticed me or not, but I've heard that Paul's is leaving next year, and like, I don't know if you're looking for a rider or not, but I'd love to like fill the spot if you were." And he's like, "Oh yeah, like that's pretty nice. What do you think you could do for us?" And I was kind of like, thrown on the back foot, like didn't really know what to say, but I was like, on your bike, I definitely think I could be like a top 3 guy, like week in, week out. And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, I'll have a think about it and let you know." And then I was like, "Yeah, no worries." Walked out pretty much like shaking. I was in my pants. But then, I think the weekend after that, or 2 weeks after that, we'd done 2 rounds, and that was like my first podium on the Cowie.
Yeah.
The day after that, they rang me on the phone and said like, "Oh yeah, we're keen." So
That was sick.
I was pretty stoked. And then like originally I was actually meant to go to Red Bull KTM. In the end, I got changed to Husky, and I mean it was the same bike but just different color type thing. And then ended up going Husky, and that was pretty cool.
Did you have an agent for those conversations, or was it just you basically being like, "Yeah, I think this sounds like a good amount of money. Hit me up with that and I'll ride your bike"?
Yeah, pretty much. It was me like doing my own thing for like for that whole time. Like I didn't really know what I was doing, but at the same time I was like so eager to like get on a sick bike there and really like, obviously Red Bull KTM was known as like the bike to be on.
Yeah.
So it was weird. I just went straight there and like tried to get on it. But
how'd you figure out like what to kind of negotiate for, or everything like that? Did you have any help, or was it just 100% you?
Like I definitely bounced off a few people like when I was like when I first got the contract and was like, "Oh yeah, like what do I need to work out?" Like I bounced it off a few people and got some ideas and stuff. But it was definitely me trying to figure it out. But at the same time, I mean, it's like cool. I needed to do that sort of stuff anyway, like to mature a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I probably would have got a better deal if I had someone like there fighting for me. But at the same time, when you're that young, you don't really understand that or know what's going on. So I didn't really care about the money or anything like that. I was just like focused on that bike, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool to be a part of a factory team.
Yeah. I think what was cool with that factory team, just some of like the ins and outs, like the quantity of gear, the situation where, you chuck your gear in a basket, it gets washed. You might see it again, or you might get a fresh packet of set of gear. Like just, it sounded like a full blown, like proper factory effort.
It's hard to explain like a factory team over there. Like I feel like there's no really such thing as like a budget on like, say as in parts and bikes and like testing. You can really test anything that you want or anything that they make or will think will be an improvement. And you don't actually realize until you think back on it how much shit you actually tested over the whole 3 years that I was there, of like, triple clamps, engine mounts, just all these little parts that you think, like, I don't know why I'm testing that. But in the end, they made a big difference. So it was like a good thing. But it's crazy the amount of things that you do and get on a factory team. Like we're saying, you get like pretty much unlimited gear. Like, because at a GP you ride 6 times on the track, and like Fox said that you're not allowed to be on track without like a brand new set of gear every time you go on the track.
Yeah.
So that obviously ordered a lot of gear for the whole season because it'd be 20 rounds. Yeah, we'd just get like 6 brand new sets of gear every race. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like we just had the unlimited stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. And having that access to testing those things, did you, like you said, you weren't sure at times why you were testing things, but once you did and you had that access to those things, did you achieve like a level of comfortability on the bike that would be hard to mimic elsewhere?
Like, yeah and no. Like, I mean, the first year that I went there, I really struggled with the bike because I'd rode like a Japanese bike for my whole junior career and racing here. I was so used to like the frame, and then obviously KTM have the different frame, or KTM Husky have the different frame. Took me a good like 6 months to like adapt to how the feeling of the bike was.
Yeah.
And obviously at that point we were still trying to test and everything like that, but I didn't have like the general feel of the bike either. Like, I changed a lot on the bike, from suspension to triple clamps, and like, as crazy as it sounds, engine mounts on the bike. And I just had like automatically a way better feel with it.
Yeah.
Once I got comfy on the bike, I didn't really change that much. Like, there'd be GPs where like the suspension guys were pretty amazed at me saying like, no, I don't really want to change anything. They always wanted to definitely try and like fine tune everything. But at one point when I'm like comfy on the bike, I'm comfy on the bike. So I feel like I don't really need to change it. In the end, yeah, you got on the bike and you're like, oh, that's my bike. Pretty much like you set it up to like how you like the feel of it and everything like that. Like lower foot pegs and like higher seat and just crazy things that you think you can't change, but they've just got access to change everything.
Yeah, that's super cool. It's super cool to have access to all that sort of stuff. I don't know how close you were to it, but there was the whole thing about the qualifying races over there. It sort of reached ahead at one of those rounds, I remember. And we see now that they've introduced, like this 10-point system for the qualifying races, which is a lot of points, on the table for a Saturday's worth of racing or whatever it is they do. So what do you think about that whole situation that presented itself, and then also like the improvement that they've sort of attempted to make?
I'm all about like riding on the Saturday. You get used to the track. You get to like get the feel for your bike on that track. You get to change a lot of things if you want to. But obviously, like, everyone was going off about the qualifying race because sometimes we'd go there and it'd be like piercing down rain on the Saturday, and like people didn't want to go out and risk it when they knew the track was going to be good the next day.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to go and race in that when you know tomorrow's where the points are and like everything's going to happen the next day. You don't really want to go out and risk it, but at the same time, it was the same for everyone. I mean, their whole argument was they wanted to do the Saturday race for the fans.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's just trying to get people through the gate, I guess.
That's the promoter side.
Yeah, exactly. So then I think the riders were like, oh, well, we don't really get paid anything for a Saturday.
Yeah.
We get paid to race and get bonuses on the Sunday. So we kind of only want to race on the Sundays. And then like it all started going like pretty pear-shaped. And then there was like one race where it was pretty muddy and all the riders just didn't want to line up. Like, I think it got pretty ugly there for a bit. More the factory guys that were like really thought it was pointless. Like, they had like few meetings and everything about it, and like they were telling the riders that they were really going to listen to them and everything like that. But I think the way they've handled it now is obviously, like, I was at some of the meetings and it's a little bit different to what they were saying and what the riders were expecting, I guess.
What were the riders' sort of expectations? Was it less of a gate drop on Saturday? Like, you can do a free practice or something like that?
I think so. I think they wanted to be like, you can do like a free practice, like a warm-up or whatever, and then like a qualifying that they normally do, but just do the gate pick from the qualifying.
Yeah.
I think at one point, I'm not sure if they were like thinking about doing, say, like what we do here, like a Super Bowl, like a top 10 shootout for the Saturday for the fans or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I heard talk of that, but obviously that just got put on the back burner. And then, yeah, now they've just come to the decision of like making it 10 points for a race win. And in one way, I think that's pretty crazy. Because if you have 20 rounds, it's like an extra 200 points that are available. And like, as you see it right now, Prado, he's like, yeah, nearly won every qualifying race. Then it'll go Sunday and he'll be third on the podium but extend his points lead from the Saturday qualifying race win. Like, it's strange for me to, I don't know, even think about that.
Yeah.
I think what they could have done is like, say, 3 points for a win, 2 for second, 1 for third or something like that, because then one of the top guys, they crash in the start of the qualifying race and they get back to 11th. They score no points, but their championship rival has just won the race. They lose like completely 10 points.
Yeah.
I know that can happen for anyone. Like the next weekend after, the guy who won the qualifying race the week before could also end up in the same situation.
Yeah.
But I feel like 10 points is a lot. A 3-point gap is like manageable, but like a whole 10 points is like a lot.
That's a lot.
So, I mean, in one way, I think the riders would be still like pretty pissed about it, I'd say. Like if I was a top championship guy and then sitting there thinking like on the Saturday, fuck, I need to go out and actually like give it my all, because like sometimes the riders would be like, right, I'm sitting 5th. It's good enough gate pick for tomorrow. I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Like, they're actually going to be sitting there thinking like, I'm going to lose 5 points.
Yeah.
To the guy that's winning.
Yeah.
So it puts a lot more pressure, I guess, on the Saturday for the whole championship standings type thing. But it's just a weird way they've structured it.
Yeah, it's interesting. 10 seems a lot. Like it seems like a lot of points, you know. The 3-2-1 makes sense, but then it's sort of like, well, if a guy's in 5th, like he's not really going to push because it's kind of like, what's a point? But yeah, it's a tricky one to incentivize that qualifying for sure. But this is I almost feel bad for chucking this one on you because it's kind of open-ended, but you have been in Europe, you've seen it and all that sort of stuff. So United States or Europe? In terms of like better, you know, overall motocross riders, or what your perspective is on that?
On the level side of things, I mean, you can take someone out of MXGP, go and put them in America and they'd struggle. Just because the tracks, the whole way everything works is different. You could do the exact same from someone from America, throw them in the deep end, they would struggle. So, I mean, like, I don't really have an opinion on that. I think, like, riders in America are insanely talented. Riders in GPs are insanely talented, but it's in 2 different ways. And, like, people that race supercross in America, they focus their whole... They get paid to race supercross, so they don't really care about motocross. If they're AMA champion for supercross, their next year's sign-on will be 20 times more than if they went out there and won outdoors. I'm not saying that they're not talented at outdoors, because they're still talented, like 100%. As you see, like Jeffrey goes there, he'll win, but Tomac and everyone like that will still battle him. Like he's not just blowing their doors off. And in one way, I think Jeffrey's nearly one of the only guys that could go there and do that. He just doesn't care. I mean, like other people think about it a little bit more, where he'll think about it that he just wants to go there and win, just to prove a point to everyone. It's kind of hard to beat that guy that just wants to go there and win that bad, just to prove to everybody on the keyboard that they can do it.
Yeah.
I don't really have an opinion about that. I think they're both very, very talented, but in different ways.
Yeah, that's a very neutral answer. Keep the keyboard warriors happy. But with it's interesting with Jeffrey that you say that, because I think the same thing. For that dude, he obviously wants to win, but he's got, you know, a fair chip on his shoulder. And for him, I feel like for him, his motivation is just demonstrating to everybody that he is the baddest dude on a bike, period. Like that's pretty much what he wants. So, you know, you had a bit of exposure to those guys over there and saw them and how they go about their business. What are like a Hurlings or a Tigger and those sorts of guys like?
Yeah, I mean, like they're all different in a way. Like Jeffrey's very like calculated and really to himself. I guess like Tim is as well, but in a more approachable way. Jeffrey will like keep to himself, probably ride to himself most of the time, and like obviously Geis is the same. He's got his own facility in like Slovenia where he lives, and he just seems to stay around there when there's like not many other guys to ride with around there. But, I mean, it works for him. And then like you've got the side of like Jeffrey where you can just like ride anywhere in Holland, Belgium, anywhere, and there's like anyone can be at the track. You just pay your entry to ride the track, and everyone can ride.
Yeah.
People at that level, it's like you can ride together, but they're still very to themselves. It's not very often that you see people like actually doing motos or riding together unless they're like on the same team. They need to stick to what they do and what makes them happy, obviously to perform on weekends. And like they both obviously perform on the weekends. So, I mean, they're doing something right.
What is it like over there in terms of the finances? You know, the top dogs obviously earn a lot of cash, but how does that filter down through the field?
I was 4th in MX2. If I had got 3rd that year, I got paid half of what I was meant to get paid the year
Oh,
after.
really?
The structure of money, I guess, goes just based on results. Yeah, obviously, if you'd finish second in the championship, you get more again. And if you obviously win the championship, it was like more again, but like a very realistic amount. Like on that side, they give you an incentive to be like world champion. And then I'm pretty sure like once you're world champion, you get like really well paid. But every rider started off with that little incentive, and then they've obviously become world champion. Then they get paid like good cash. On my side, like I know what I was on, but like to be honest, I don't know what many of the other guys were on. Obviously, you know, like the bigger guys, because everyone talks about how much they get paid. But say other people that I was racing at the time, I like pretty much only knew what like say Vial would have been on, because I had the same contract kind of thing, or people would say how much Yago would be on. But that's just word of mouth around the paddock. And then everyone else, you never really knew what they were or weren't getting.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people, if you actually ask them, add a little bit of pepper to it anyway. So I don't know. Like it's pretty hard to tell. I would say like it's definitely livable, but not like comfortable.
Yeah.
So like you still have to like be concerned of like where you're spending money and what you're doing. Unless you're obviously on the podium every weekend, then you're earning like good cash.
Yeah, once you're a world champion too, it's sort of like they recognize you as a world champion from that point on kind of thing.
Yeah. Obviously there you don't get personal sponsors in like gear and stuff like that, but I'd say like our team was sponsored by Fox. If someone was world champion on 250, they'd obviously like push harder for the team to go and chase that rider type thing.
Yeah.
Being a world champion from that side of things would be just like, yeah, you'd get more cash thrown at you just on that side, where like other sponsors from outside the actual team want you as well, which would just make it easier for someone to negotiate a deal, I guess. But yeah, I was never in that position, so couldn't tell you.
Yeah, totally. It's all interesting though. But back in Oz, you know, this is where you base yourself now, is kind of out of the Wonthaggi area, part of the Beaton's Pro Formula program, and a part of your Eve's team too. So you're back here and you're in the MX1 class. What is the future for Jed Beaton? Is it sort of up in the air at the moment? Do you have an idea of what you want to do? Where do you want to go? What are your plans currently?
I would definitely love to go back and race GPs, but as we were speaking earlier, it's like really hard to get back there unless you actually go and do races there. The best thing I can do is get good results here, get back in the GP scene. Obviously just do like a little bit of racing here, there and everywhere and like see what I enjoy. Like at this moment, I'm like up in the air a little bit. But definitely I want to go and race international again. I still feel like I'm young, or on the younger side of things, to be able to go and do it. So I've only just turned like 25. I think when you get to the age of like 27, 28, it's only like a couple more years before you start like thinking about, oh, what am I going to do after racing?
Yeah.
Where like if I went now or like next year, you've still got them years to be like, right, I'm here, I'm going to make the most of it for like the next couple years that I can do it. I think if you just go somewhere like that and get decent results, you don't have to worry about the money. You just be focused on your racing. So yeah, I'm in a, I don't know, not a tough situation, but like a situation where I'm like still like up on the fence, where I'm like, I want to get a good opportunity as well, because I know like the level both sides are on. If you go to GPs, you need a good team to perform. You can't go there on like a half satellite team and just be expected to perform every weekend, because the level is like insanely high. And obviously it'd be the same for America. It just, like I said, I've never been there, but it just stands out. Like if you're not on factory equipment and factory stuff, it's really, really hard to like be a competitive guy. So yeah, I mean, I think either way, if I got an opportunity on like a really good team, then yeah, I'd take it tomorrow.
You did the MX2 class for a long time, then you stepped up for 1 year in the MXGP class. What was the biggest difference that you noticed between the two classes and, you know, even the equipment that you're on?
Like I got pretty comfortable in 250 class because you kind of know your place and spot. You know that if you got a good start, you could possibly challenge for a win and everything like that. So I mean, the transition was pretty tough because you go into the MX1 class, is like you line up in the MX2 class knowing like, oh, I'm one of the older guys here. Like you feel like you've got the most experience and everything like that. And then you go into the MX1 class and you lined up next to guys that have raced the MX1 class since they were like 18. And you're like, well, I really have no experience here.
It's like going to high school.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you're like sitting next to guys and you're just sitting there thinking like, oh, there's probably 8 people in this class that have won a world title. So if I'm top 8, I'm doing pretty good. After that, really, it's just like, hopefully I can rip a good start and then we'll see where we're at. Like, because in MX2, you know, you can get a shit start and sort of make your way through, but the field was like 20 times deeper in MX1, where it was like you'd start 10th, you stay 10th, or you go back to 15th.
Yeah.
Like, it was really, really hard to like make them passes unless you would like do it on the first laps. Obviously, I had like a good start at Madeley Basin. It felt quite comfortable to ride around at that pace and then like be up there mixing it with them. And then you go to round 2 and then you qualify like 10th or 12th or something. You think like, oh, I just did one of the hardest laps like ever in my life and I'm in 10th, probably like 2 seconds off. You're like, what the f am I doing?
Like the hardest 14th you've ever fought for in your life?
Oh, like there's some races there now, like now you think about it, like you're riding around, you think you've got like a pretty good pace going and you think, oh, I'm pretty comfortable. And then you're just battling for fucking 15th place, literally. And like they'll battle you until the very last lap for a 15th. Like it's pretty crazy. From that, it just snowballed pretty much. And then like obviously my father passed away halfway through the year. And then it was like a real struggle from then on. That's kind of where it like hit me that I was that far away from home and like there by myself. Obviously I had my girlfriend, but like say nothing else there. And then I was like, well, you kind of get that thought of like, what the fuck am I actually doing here?
Yeah.
Like I've just been away for 6 years and like missed probably 6 years of my dad's life that I'm like, I know that I'm never going to get back, but you're like, well, fuck, like it sort of comes to realization where when you're living it at the time, you're like definitely never thinking about that. You're like, oh, I'll focus on racing. And then all of a sudden it just hit me like, you do have shit outside of racing that fucking still happens as you're doing it.
Yeah.
It takes something like that for you to realize it. So in that way, it was pretty crazy. I mean, how much like that affected me to go racing and enjoy it every weekend. And especially because the races there are like week after week after week. You don't even get time to like relax or think about it. You just like, oh, fuck, I get off the plane, ride one day, get back on it and go back to the race. That was probably like the toughest year of my career to try and handle that side of things. And then obviously now I'm back here. I feel like it's just a year to get my shit back together, reset, enjoy racing and everything again and get comfortable. And then, yeah, hopefully like we were talking about earlier, head back over and do something.
Yeah. Well, really sorry to hear that about your old man. I mean, he was a really great dude, a guy who was in the paddock a lot and had the time for everyone, would have the time for everyone. So when you're over there, you realize that you're a long way away, right? Is that a hard thing to sort of deal with whilst you're sort of over there, to be so far away from family?
It is, but at that time I didn't realize it until everything actually happened.
Yeah.
When I got the phone call to say that my dad was sick, didn't really like get to me because I was so focused on racing. And you'd have the conversation with him and he'd be like, oh, you need to be so focused on racing and like keep doing what you're doing. And like he didn't want you to think about him.
Yeah.
But at the time, like he was like wasn't gone. You knew he was always there, still here. And then like I could fly back at the end of the season and see him. But then, yeah, getting halfway through the year and then getting the phone call that he'd passed, it's obviously a lot different to handle than when you get told that he was just generally sick. So, yeah, that's kind of like the sense where it comes to realization that you're like definitely a long way from home and you've probably missed out on a lot of things over the last 6 years.
Chasing a dream.
Yeah, just chasing the dream. And then in one way, he wanted nothing less as well. So at the same time, you can never regret it. But I mean, just the way of handling things and like enjoying going racing and everything like that was just completely different for me after that because, yeah, like I said, it hits home quite hard when you're that far away and, yeah, you realise that you're probably never going to see him again, even though you really want to, but you know you're not. It's just a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but what do you do?
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's one thing, like you can answer this if you want or you don't have to, but you think about the family thing, with racing and how important your brother is and how important everybody else is. How important was, your dad throughout your racing career?
Yeah, I mean, like, he was obviously why we started racing. So, like I said, he never pressured us a day in our life. He was just always there for probably like the family reasons. So that's what made us close as a family, was going racing every weekend. He'd just work flat out on our bikes all day, all night to make sure we could race and have fun. His main goal was for all of us to roll out of the track with a smile on our face no matter what, whether we finish first or last. He was a massive, massive part of my racing career. And like, obviously he would have been like proud of what I've done, but like at the same time, he never really got to say it because like he knew how much Ross was on my back and like everything like that. He was just proud of what we were doing together as well. At the same time, he didn't have to be like fully involved like he was before.
Yeah.
In saying that, it sort of like switched to like Ross being on my back and then like pushing me hard. So like we were saying earlier, it was probably a good time for it to all happen. Yeah, I would say he's a huge part of my racing career, just from getting us into it and then taking us all the way.
Well, that's us for this episode of the Ride Network. I really appreciate you coming on. Again, thank you heaps for the time. Appreciate the chat. And you've done a lot of pretty rad things in your career so far, from the GPs here. You're doing well here. So I think, everybody's kind of behind you and wants to see where you take it next.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks heaps for having me on.
Sweet.